Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Music, Freedom, and Independence. This is a presentation hosted by DLRC's grade 11 students, including myself, Raghav Ganesh Ram, Ayush Singh, Siddharth Sirur, and Rose Chaperon. Um, this is us four together. We banded together for this presentation mainly because in our previous school, we were a band known as the Quantum Groove. Maybe you've heard of us. And I think we were pretty successful as a school band. We participated in Torrance Battle of the Bands competition. It was a national school band competition. And season one, we came second. And season two, not so much, but it was a hell of an experience. So let's jump right in. So this presentation is what we're trying to portray or convey through this presentation is how music played a part or impacted the various independence movements or freedom struggles of different countries around the world. As you can see in front of you, we are mainly covering French Revolution, the American Revolution, and our very own the Indian freedom struggle. So let's jump right in. And the first thing I want to start this presentation off by asking you a question. Why do we listen to music? What makes you sit down, open YouTube, and search that favorite song? Is it to relax? Is it to find a new genre? Or is it just you feeling a little active and you want to dance? I mean, that can be a reason. So what you can see in front of you is you may want to open up a new tab and type in menti.com. It is a site where you can log in your responses and we can see them pop up. It'll ask you to put a code down. It'll be 3578585. So we'll give you a minute or two to do that. Till then, I will just pop on over to menti.com. Oh, you can see there are some jubilant people in our video already. You've already had some responses. We can see the main, how Menti works is the more responses you put up as. So you can see the main one is relaxation. That is, I think, the main reason why people listen to music. It's after a like long, hard, stressful day. You just want to escape from reality. You can see it's there. You can see somewhere escape is written as well. And then there's something emotional. Different genres of music have different emotions. Relax again, there is. And music therapy is also a thing, believe it or not. And you've got calmness, passion, ourselves. We're pretty passionate about music, so passion comes in a role as well. So a background noise while you're working, you just want some, what do you say, mood music to suit theme, like whatever it may be. So let's move on. And the next thing I want you to know is why we did that previous slide. It was to, make you think that we listen to music nowadays because we have the freedom to. We should be thankful and lucky and grateful to be in a country that does not censor such information, such music. We can open up Google and search whatever we want and it's right there. But let me pose this to you. Why do you think freedom fighters back in the old days, why would they resort to music? Maybe it invoked a sense of nationalism and love for one's own country. Maybe. I mean, every time on Independence Day, when you listen to the national anthem, on that day, on that specific day, you just feel pride, you feel patriotic. You feel that I am thankful to be an Indian citizen. So we know that can be a reason. The second reason can be that it was a tool to spread the message of patriotism to all parts of the country. I mean, and that is true. The oppressors, mainly the British Raj in the Indian context, they could censor or ban books and literature, but I find it inherently hard to censor a human voice. So music could have been an ideal tool to spread the message of patriotism to all parts of the country because it was irrelevant of caste, race, or religion. A third reason could be to shift people's minds away from the struggles of life. We know back then, during the British Raj, there was a lot of oppression, that we had a very bad economy. There was starvation. People had no food, no water, no places to live. And we can say that even though they didn't listen to music, I don't think they had VCRs back then. Maybe they did. I am just 16 years old. But singing helped as well. And it could have shifted people's minds away from the struggles of life. So, another thing which I want you to think about is, why do we have national anthems? Like, when we were kids, we went to school, we had that morning assembly, and we would just stand there in lines and sing that same piece of music every single day. Here are some facts about national anthems. The 19th century, that's pretty long ago. Patriotic music composition that invoked traditions and struggles of its people is taken as a national anthem. So basically, I mean, things that encompass our traditions, our cultures. I think those words, those ideas are usually adopted in national anthems. The third amazing fact is national anthems are recognized either by a nation's government officially as a national song or by convention through public use. Like, it can be adopted into a tradition. And our last amazing fact on national anthems is something you would know, and that is majority of national anthems are marches or hymns in style. So I want to start off our main segment of this presentation by one quote. Music is universal, and these anthems, they bind us together as one people and one voice. Now I will transfer control of this presentation to my friend, classmate, colleague, Rose Chaperon. Take it away, Rose.
Hello everyone, so I am Rose Chaperon and I will be talking about the French Revolution. So this is a basic timeline for those of you who don't know anything about the French Revolution. The French Revolution started on 14th July in 1789 by the storming of Bastille. So let me just say that it was not pretty. They just stormed their way in, and so Bastille is a prison. They just stormed their way in and they killed everybody in there, the guards, prisoners, everybody, in the most ruthless ways possible. So when I say they, you must be wondering, they who, right? So at that time, French society was divided into three estates. So there was the first estate with the king and the royal family. The second estate consisted of the nobles. So like the second class people, they were pretty okay. The third estate, they were the common people and they had to pay the most taxes. And things were quite bad for them. And at that time, France was going through an economic crisis. So it became bad. They had no food, no shelter, no water, no clothes. Their children died. A lot of kids died actually. So all this went up to a point. It came up to a point where they said, okay, we cannot do this anymore. We just cannot. And that's when the revolution started. So 14th July, that's when it all started, right? So it's also considered as the French Independence Day. So so it's also called Bastille Day because it started by the storming of Bastille. So there's a lot of stuff that happened in between, but I mean, it's Indian Independence Day, right? So I'm not gonna go into that a lot. Basically, after a lot of protesting and effort, the king, he formally signed the new constitution on September 14th, 1791. Then in 1793, January 21st, he was executed by guillotine. 9 months later, his wife, the queen, Marie Antoinette, even she was executed by guillotine. So you must be wondering what guillotine is. It's just the picture on the right. I'm not going to go into details about what it is. I think it's pretty clear. And yeah, next slide.
Le peuple en ce jour sans cesse répète. Malgré les luttes, tout réussira. Nos ennemis confus en restent là. Et nous allons chanter Alléluia. On voit nos jadis du clergé par là, comme un prophète qui d'après dit cela, en chantant ma chansonnette. Avec plaisir on dira, ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, malgré les buts, tout réussira.
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
Hier le petit Margot chante à la guinguette.
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
Réjouissons-nous, le bon temps viendra. Le peuple français jadis acquis, l'aristocrate dit mea culpa.
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
Le clergé regrette le bien qu'il a, par justice la nation l'aura, par le prudent Lafayette, tout trouble s'apaisera. Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, réjouissons-nous, le bon temps viendra.
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
Par les flambeaux de l'auguste assemblée,
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
le peuple abri toujours se gardera. Le vrai d'avec le faux l'on connaîtra. Le citoyen pour le bien soutiendra.
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
Quand l'aristocrate protestera, le bon citoyen au début rira, sans avoir à le troubler. Toujours le plus fort sera. Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira. Le peuple armé toujours se gardera.
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
Par les flambeaux de l'auguste assemblée,
Ah ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.
le peuple armé toujours se gardera.
Yeah, so the author of the songwriter of the song is not known. There are rumors of like who he or she might be, but there's no official confirmation. I mean, it was written in the 1700s, right? So they didn't have a record, and so it was first heard in May 1790. It's a very, very old song with like very, very old French, and it doesn't have a record, as I said. So like there were a lot of changes in the wording, but the refrain, a refrain is like a short chorus. It's kind of like a chorus. So the refrain is on the top right, and there's a translation below that. So the refrain stayed the same almost everywhere. It stayed similar, but everything else around it, all the lyrics around that changed quite a lot. Yeah, next slide. so what you just heard is the current French national anthem. It was officially declared the national anthem on July 14th, 1795. So I have quoted a few lines from the national anthem that are kind of harsh, kind of violent, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. So there is the bloody flag is raised high. Then there is, so the impure blood should water the furrows of our fields. And then they slit open the throats of our sons and consorts. So, I mean, it doesn't sound nice, right? But then if you think about it, so this was after the execution of the king and the queen, when France became a republic. But then the kingdoms, so France was the first country in Europe to become a republic, and the kingdoms around were afraid, they were worried that if France succeeded, then even they would get overthrown. I mean, they didn't want that, obviously, right? So a lot of countries went against France at that time, and France was already having like an economic crisis, so it was not helping. So when the French people were fighting against the invaders, they had no food, no clothes, again, all vulnerable. The equipment that they had was nothing compared to what the others had. So all they had in them, all that they had was the fire in them. Like, okay, yeah, you cannot come in my land. This is my land. This is my country, and you can't have it. You just can't. So yeah. So it doesn't justify it, but like, I mean, I think it's something that we should consider before we, yeah. Next slide. Now, Siddharth will talk about the American Revolution.
Hi there. So I'm Siddharth, and I'm gonna be talking about the American Revolution. Right, so the American Revolution lasted about 8 years and began when Britain started to heavily tax the colonies, which is now present-day America, because of the large war debts Britain owed to the French due to the French and Indian Wars, which was a battle for territory in the northeast part of North America. So protests broke out, and after many wars and debts, Britain, along with the United States, signed the Treaty of Paris, making the United States independent from Britain. And just 30 years later, the famous Star-Spangled Banner was written, describing the attacks by the British on American soil. And now the American National Anthem. Next slide, please.
Can you see by
Yeah, so now a little history on the American National Anthem. So the American National Anthem was originally written by Francis Scott in the September of 1814. The lyrics are influenced by the attacks of the British on Fort McHenry during the Battle of Baltimore. Now, if you notice during the song, there's a mention of the American flag prevailing through bombs and attacks. Via personification, the American flag resembles perseverance through difficult times, and that the people still stood strong. Now, what were the similarities between the Indian and American freedom struggles? Well, firstly, the national anthems were created through the success of our revolutions. Not to mention that both countries were fighting for their independence from the British monarchy. And they expressed how they felt through their patriotic songs. And finally, their constitutions were written to denounce their oppression. Thank you. And now Ayush with the Indian freedom struggle.
Okay, folks, so I'm Ayush and I'll be taking over the Indian freedom struggle. So the British originally came to India as traders, and in India they set up a company called the East India Company. Slowly the company grew from the trading company to one of the major powers in the Indian economy at the time. And then in the year 1857, the British officially came to India and declared British rule. India was officially considered as one British land. And finally, on the 13th of April, we had the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, which was ordered by General Dyer. Countless lives were lost that day. And that massacre caused a fire to burn inside the hearts and souls of the Indian people. And they sought to overthrow the British rule. India finally achieved its independence on the 15th of August in the year 1947. And now we'll be seeing some songs that were there before independence that inspired patriotism. So the first song is Dur Hato E Duniya Walo. So imagine times where your country is bound by shackles. Almost anything that is out in the press is censored, even if it slightly motivates you to become patriotic. And we're talking about times where a book, Anand Mat, was banned just because it talked about a little patrioticness. So arguably, this was the first song, Dur Hato E Duniya Walo. The lyricist was Kavi Pradeep, and it was released in 1943 in the movie Kismet.
चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है, आज हिमालय की चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है। दूर हटो दूर हटो दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है। दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है।
महल है और कुतुब मीनारा है,
जहाँ हमारा ताजमहल है और कुतुब मीनारा है।
जहाँ हमारे मंदिर मस्जिद सिखों का गुरुद्वारा है,
जहाँ हमारे मंदिर मस्जिद सिखों का गुरुद्वारा है। जहाँ हमारा ताजमहल है और कुतुब मीनारा है, जहाँ हमारे मंदिर मस्जिद सिखों का गुरुद्वारा है।
धरती पर कदम बढ़ाना अत्याचार तुम्हारा है,
अत्याचार तुम्हारा है। दूर हटो दूर हटो दूर हटो वालों, हिंदुस्तान है। दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है। आज हिमालय की चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है, आज हिमालय की चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है। दूर हटो दूर हटो दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है। जाग उठो हिंदुस्तानी, तुम न किसी के आगे झुकना, जर्मन हो या जापानी, शुरू हुआ है जंग तुम्हारा, जाग उठो हिंदुस्तानी, तुम न किसी के आगे झुकना, जर्मन हो या जापानी। आज सभी के लिए हमारा यही कौमी नारा है, आज सभी के लिए हमारा यही कौमी नारा है। दूर हटो, दूर हटो, दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है। दूर हटो है दुनिया वालों, हिंदुस्तान हमारा है। आज हिमालय की चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है, आज हिमालय की चोटी से फिर हमने ललकारा है। दूर हटो, दूर हटो, दूर हटो।
Okay, so in the song you might have heard of a reference Japani. So the song was written about the Japanese imperialism. That was what was written in the song, but the natives knew that the song was directed towards the British. Oddly enough, the song was never actually brought down, and it became one of the patriotic songs against the British. Next we have Hindustan Ke Hum Hai, Hindustan Hamara. It was sung by famous song artist Muhammad Rafi, who was a very patriotic song artist, and this was one of his songs that made his stepping stones. Also, this was another song that was along the line of patriotic songs that were played during marches and wars.
हिंदुस्तान के हम हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों की आंखों का तारा। हिंदुस्तान के हम हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों की आंखों का तारा। जहाँ हरी खेतियाँ झूम रही हैं, झूम रही हैं, झूठे जननी को झूम रही हैं, झूम रही हैं। जहाँ हरी खेतियाँ झूम रही हैं, झूम रही हैं, झूठे जननी को झूम रही हैं, झूम रही हैं। सब जग से ऊंचा, सब जग से न्यारा, सब जग से ऊंचा, सब जग से न्यारा, गंगा जमुना बहे जहाँ वो भारत प्यारा। हिंदुस्तान के हम हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों की आंखों का तारा। जहाँ खेल गए हैं साहन काले, साहन काले, जहाँ हुए गोविंद सिंह कलवे वाले, कलवे वाले। जहाँ खेल गए हैं साहन काले, साहन काले, जहाँ हुए गोविंद सिंह कलवे वाले, कलवे वाले। नानक की भूमि गुरु का द्वारा, नानक की भूमि गुरु का द्वारा, हिमालय की छाया में है देश हमारा। हिंदुस्तान के हम हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों की आंखों का तारा। लो चले सिपाही पंच भारती, पंच भारती, अब आए सामने हिम्मत किसी, हिम्मत किसी। लो चले सिपाही पंच भारती, पंच भारती, अब आए सामने हिम्मत किसी, हिम्मत किसी। हर मैदान जीता, हर मैदान मारा, हर मैदान जीता, हर मैदान मारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम के मिलके लगे ललकारा। हिंदुस्तान के हम हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों की आंखों का तारा। हिंदुस्तान के हम हैं, हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हिंदू मुस्लिम दोनों की आंखों का तारा।
Okay, so now we're moving on to more patriotic songs that you might even know. So now we have Vande Mataram, which was written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and was shown as in his 1882 film Anand Math, which was also banned during the British rule. On the 24th of January, the 1950, the Constituent Assembly of India adopted as the national song of India. Then we have Sare Jahan Se Acha, an Urdu language patriotic song for children. It was written by a famous poet, Muhammad Iqbal in the ghazal style of the Urdu poetry. It was published in the weekly journal Ittihad on the 16th of August 1904, and it was also played on the day after it was published in the journal, which caused a flame for it to blow up among the public. It quickly became the anthem of opposition to the British Raj. After that, we have Sarfaroshi Ki Tamanna, Urdu poem written by Bismil Azimbadi in 1921 following the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. It was an ode to freedom fighters and was published in his journal Sabah. The original copy is still preserved in Khuda Bank's library. Now we come to our national anthem. It was written by Rabindranath Tagore and composed in highly Sanskritized Bengali. It was later translated to Hindi and Urdu by Abid Ali. The original song of the name was Bharata Bhagya Vedata, and later the first paragraph of the song was taken by the Constituent Assembly of India as a national anthem on the 24th of January 1950. The formal rendition takes about 52 seconds, and it was set to Rag Aliya Bilawal. And now I'll hand it over to Raghav Ganeshram to finish everything up.
Yes, it's the end of our presentation. We're glad you could make it this far. And to end this presentation on the right note, I think what I would request from everyone who's watching would be to stand up for the national anthem, which we're going to play next. So if you could just do that.
भारत भाग्य विधाता
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा
द्राविड उत्कल बंगा
विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा
उच्छल जलधि तरंग
तव शुभ नाम जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा
जन गण मंगल नायक जय हे
भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 जय
Thank you for attending our presentation today, and happy Independence Day. Happy 74th Independence Day, India.